Hey. That title card's going to be really confusing for people who just see the mountain between us part of the time.
Ooh, so mad about that mountain.
Damn you, mountain!
We'll put the mountain in post, and then we'll just be both fighting the mountain.
It actually works out that both of these movies are being talked about, because I can't remember if you were also like this, but when I mentioned to Dave yesterday that we were going to see Battle of the Sexes, he thought I was talking about the mountain between us. So I was like, yeah, Sarah and I are seeing Battle of the Sexes tomorrow, and Dave's like, oh, that looks like shit. And I go, really? It's supposed to be... And then I paused and went, you're thinking of the mountain between us, aren't you? And he goes, the Idris Elba thing? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah, I had no idea what you're talking about either when you asked me to go see this one, and you reminded me. I'm like, oh, yes.
This is based on the popular board game, Battle of the Sexes? Absolutely.
I lost that game so bad.
Did you?
I don't know lady things.
Oh, I can't even remember. I remember we played it with, if you don't know this game, it's a board game called Battle of the Sexes, where you have, it's women versus men, and the men get, like, female-oriented questions, and then vice versa.
That's why I lost, because I don't know from sports. I'll remember if I lose a board game.
Yeah.
Because I twisted my ankle because I had a cold that day.
And didn't know power tool questions. Anyway.
Nail gun doesn't work like that.
Anyway, that's not what this movie's based on, by the way. As hilarious as that would be. Remember that time Bobby Riggs challenged Billie Jean King to a board game? You came out of the movie like, this is the most I ever cared about tennis.
By a long shot, because again, don't give a shit about sports.
Well, I mentioned to you too, like, man, I miss the day when tennis had wrestling heels. I said heels at first. You're like, what? She was wearing...
No, like, focus on the sneakers, because they're made out of Bruce Wayne.
Oh, right. I didn't pay attention to that part, I guess. I grew up watching, like, you know, old games and footage of, like, John McEnroe and stuff like that in the era where, like, tennis always had, like, a big loud mouth. And that was kind of fun. Because, like, you'd be watching someone like John McEnroe and, you know, something would happen. He'd miss a point or something like that. And then he'd just blow a fucking gasket. And it was amazing.
It's always fun to see that happen, like, in a game like fucking tennis. Where it's
I know.
Yeah. Like, there's a comedian, John Daly, who's, I guess there's a tennis, or a golf player by the same name who's something of a card, and so they did like a Comedy Central special where we did an impersonation of him. And that's, again, all I know about golf. And it's fun to watch because it's just him just like pitching a little hissy fit and then also golfing.
Yeah, that stuff can make like any sport like kind of great, you know, like, because a sport like golf, a sport like tennis, and you have like with tennis a guy like John McEnroe, like, boop, 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 son of a bitch! Or even in this, like, with Bobby Riggs dressing like
Bo Peep with all the sheep running around.
With sheep, and passing back and forth pigs, and playing with frying pans and shit like that.
He was doing amazingly well with the frying pan.
He was doing great.
But, like, even at the very beginning of the movie, to sort of showcase how he's living this sort of secret gambling life, unbeknownst to his wife, he's like going to some rooftop in the middle of the night to gamble on his ability to play tennis with 2 dogs and a leash and 2 folding chairs set out in the court.
Yeah,
it's just like that sort of nonsense. It's like the bad boy of tennis.
The loud mouth of tennis. And the 70s were amazing.
They really were.
I know, but at least you could see Bobby Riggs playing tennis with some dogs and a couple of chairs in the middle of it. If you don't know what this movie's about, it's in 1973, and it's what it's called in the movie is this Battle of the Sexes tennis event between Bobby Riggs, who was 55 at the time, and he's played by Steve Carell in the movie, and Billie Jean King, who's about 29, and Emma Stone plays her. And it all culminates in this tennis event that was a big media thing at the time. But what the movie does really cool is that it's really
more about Billie Jean King in that time in her life. And that, you know, that match is just sort of a culmination of all the things that are happening to her.
Yeah, because it's when you see the trailer for the movie, it is kind of mostly about this match, but that is really just kind of the last part of this movie. The rest of it is about that with Billie Jean King and also Bobby Riggs, and it's going back and forth, kind of showing where their lives are at this particular point in time and how it does intersect with this match, because whereas she's coming up in tennis stardom, Bobby Riggs is 55 years old, and he's working in an office, and he's
run by the dad of his husband.
Yeah,
or his wife. Excuse
me. Who's Elizabeth Shue in the movie, and
that's who that was.
looked nothing like she did in 2015 in Back to the Future 2.
No, because she looked really familiar, but I couldn't place her because they 70s the crap out of her makeup and her hair was all straight. So
Steve Carell looks a lot like Bobby Riggs, honestly.
Well, those had to be false teeth. His teeth don't actually look like that.
Yeah, he's got like one that's kind of like out in front a little bit, and so. Whereas her storyline is, you know, she's married in this, but she's a lesbian, and she has this relationship with her hairdresser, and again, this is in 1973.
So very hush hush.
Yeah, ooh, secrets.
Like it's it kind of opens with she's trying to get as much money for the lady tennis players as the men tennis players are making, and so she kind of like breaks off with all the girl tennis players. Like, if you're not going to pay us even close to as much as the men, then we're going to start our own tennis. And so while they're getting ready for the press conference, she meets his hairdresser, and it's a very, I think, well done scene where the hairdresser, you can tell the hairdresser's like, I'm gay, are you gay?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, this hairstyling scene is kind of a sex scene.
It's absolutely a sex scene. She's just playing with her hair, and it's all like covert glances and shit. And meanwhile, like all the girls, because it's the 70s, are like, oh, they're gal pals.
Yeah, they're just friends.
And so, it's like Billie Jean, not playing well because she's got all this stuff going on in her life. And then meanwhile, Steve Carell's character, Bobby Riggs, is, sort of stagnating, and it culminates with him getting, like, his wife kicks him out of the house because she finds out that he's been gambling, and he said that he wouldn't anymore. And so he decides that he's going to super gamble. And set up this match with, like, him and a lady tennis player, whoever's the best. And then Billie Jean King says no. And so he beats the tar out of some other lady. And Billie Jean King's like, well, all right, I guess I have to play.
And it's kind of this second career that Bobby Riggs is having in this. Like, he does kind of get a career rejuvenation, and his marriage is kind of falling apart as well due to his gambling addiction. And whereas he is certainly presented like he's a showman, like she even says it too, like he's a mouth, he's a loud mouth, he's a guy who goes out there and he does this for shits and giggles, and that's what he's a heel. Like, he is a heel. But as it says in that scene between her and Bill Pullman,
he's not the problem.
Bill
Pullman's the problem.
Bill Pullman is the guy who plays Jack Kramer in the movie, who is the man who wasn't going to give them their pay and is the reason they were out of this tennis association. Which is so coincidental he's in this movie, because when I get to Mountain Between Us, I'll bring him up again. But it was it was cool seeing Bill Pullman pop up in this movie again.
All sorts of people were showing
There's
up, and they're all playing
shitload
like
of people in
heinous 70s white dudes. And that's, I think, part of the appeal of this movie, is that there are some hilarious lines. It's, just going off about, like, oh yeah, women, not as good as men, stay in the kitchen, that's what I say. And it's like, ha ha ha, oh wait, people actually said shit like that. Like, legitimately believed it in their heart. Yeah,
like, whereas Steve Carell is sitting there saying this because he's
a caricature of that sort of person, and he knows that that's what he is.
But his fans aren't.
So you got, like, Johnny C. And fucking Tom Kenny out of nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
Just, like, sitting there like, ha, yeah, go get him, Bobby. And it's, they don't get it. They just say they don't get it.
What's it again? It's 1973.
It's a different time.
Yeah. This has a huge cast. Like, Alan Cumming is in this.
Yeah, people keep showing up, like, out of nowhere. There's a newscaster who was the boyfriend from New Girl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and there's no reason for him to be in this movie, except that maybe, like, he wanted to be in this movie. So they're like, all right, you could be the newscaster for 5 seconds.
Right, he's just in it for, like, 5 seconds. Yeah, John C. McGinley is in this. Fred Armisen pops up in just, like a couple of scenes.
Like, drug selling shyster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah Silverman is in this.
Sarah Silverman is awesome.
She's great in the movie.
There's a scene where they barge into the gentleman's club, and Tom Kenny's like, you guys shouldn't be in here. And Sarah Silverman's like, why? Because I'm a woman or because I'm a Jew?
Yeah.
He's like, both.
She's able to get some sponsorship when they form their own league. She's able to get some sponsorship through Virginia Slim cigarettes. He's like,
so she's just like handing out packs of cigarettes.
Girls. It's like she's the younger version of Estelle, Joey's manager from Friends. Yeah, there's a lot of really great funny moments in it, but the movie also, it does have a lot of heart to it, especially between Billie Jean King and her hairdresser, and also her and her husband as well.
Yeah, Larry King. Like, that was a connection that I didn't realize existed.
Oh, right. Is it the same?
I think it is Larry King.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was he that fucking handsome in 1973?
God, I hope so.
Larry.
Like, she's having this affair with her hairdresser, and then Larry King comes to the hotel, and the gay hairdressers, they're not hairdressers, the gay clothes smiths, like, who have cottoned on to the fact that she's taken a lover immediately, like, call up to her room, like, by the way, your husband's here, and so she, like, hustles to get all this stuff out of her room, and Larry King comes in, and you think, oh, close call, and you realize that there's, like, a bra sitting on the thing, and it is not a Billie J. King bra, and you see, like, the sort of emotions play over his face, like, well, now this is a decision I have to make. And so finally he goes over and he ices her knees and he says, I'm gonna go get a different room.
Now if this were a cartoon, it would have gone inside his head and 2 gay gerbils inside of a wheel inside his head.
But it was really kind of a heartbreaking moment, because then, like, later he chases the hairdresser down outside, and he's like, look, I'm not your competition. I'm just a husband, you're just a phase. Tennis is what she's in love with, and if you get between them, she will just ditch you.
Yeah, there's a lot of great moments like that in the movie, because again, a majority of this movie is stuff like that. A majority of this movie is showing it's like Rocky in that regard. Like, it all ends in the fight at the end of Rocky, but a lot of it is about, a majority is about Rocky Balboa and Apollo Creed at 2 wildly different stages in their career, and it all culminates in this fight at the end. Honestly, it's one of the best sports movies I've seen since Rocky. This is a perfectly written sports film.
It's really good, and like, not knowing from tennis, I can't speak to the accuracy, but it all looked accurate. And there's like even parts where she's doing like little tennis exercises where there's like balls laid out and she's like hopping over them, and she's like stacked up pyramids of tennis balls, and then she's like firing tennis balls off to like whack at the pyramids, and it's like, maybe tennis players do that, but in a movie it's an amazing moment.
And it has they have Howard Cosell in this movie too.
Cop It a Feel and Rosario Dawson.
That wasn't Rosario.
No, who was that?
That was didn't she end up with Aziz Ansari on Parks and Rec?
Yes.
I can't remember her name, but like that's what I remembered on the top of my head.
What the fuck is her name?
But they do a special effect where they blend footage of Howard Cosell with her just,
and he's doing that very 70s thing where it's like, oh, you're a woman, I'm allowed to just put my hands on you.
It's the Richard Dawson effect.
It's the Richard Dawson.
I know, right? Like, but again, nice to see the ghost of Howard Cosell back in a movie
and getting some touch.
I love this film.
This movie was amazing. Like, I would recommend seeing it. Like, you don't have to like sports movies to like this movie.
You don't at all. You definitely don't have to like sports or tennis to like the movie. It's just a great movie. It's a great period film, especially between sex and sexuality in 1973.
Yeah.
It's a great movie, again, about these 2 people showing the contrast between where they both are in their careers and why it makes sense that it would end in this match.
Yeah. And it's a really kind of sweet the arc between Bobby and his wife as well.
Yeah,
because like he wants her back, and they have this really sweet moment where he's like, this is really scary, and I need you, and she's like, I can't. You know?
Yeah, you're
the best, and I love you, but I need like a husband right now, and you are not that.
Yeah, he's gambling with his therapist. It's like, well, he's really bad.
And that's the thing too, that like they kept playing these scenes for laughs, but it's heartbreaking at the core of it. Yeah, she's like, oh yeah, I did talk to your shrink. He just gave me the $30 that you owed him for the last time they played blackjack. It's like, ha ha ha.
At the end of the day, he's a guy who's known for being funny, and in a situation like that, he'll probably say something like that. I know I would. I'm hilarious. But no, I highly, it's easily one of the best movies I've seen this year so far. This was a fantastic fucking movie. It's well made. They do a good job of really bringing out the early 70s in the movie. It's with the film stock, how it looks, how it's shot, how it's edited together. Obviously a few of the music choices in the movie.
The clothes and the hairstyles were like completely on point. And two, they did a good job of putting very 70s hairstyles on Emma Stone while still not, like, she definitely looked like Billie Jean King, but she also looked like Emma Stone, you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
It wasn't just a haircut with a pair of glasses poking out. Like, you could see her face and you could see her emoting, and it wasn't distracting how 70s her hairstyle was.
I didn't think it was distracting at all. It reminded me of what they did with like Amanda Seyfried in Lovelace, where it's like, yeah, you see those prominent features of Amanda Seyfried, but it doesn't get in the way of the performance at all.
Exactly.
So yeah, definitely go see this.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts about it?
Go see it.
All right.
There was one moment that kind of got on my nerves, and I understand completely why they did it. It was just kind of a jarring tonal shift. At the very, very end, like after she beats Bobby, spoiler alert, at the tennis match, and she's like, she's gone back to her dressing room, and she had like this heartbreaking scene where she's like crying, and I think it's partially because out of exhaustion and just relief from winning, but then also from, you know, like having this big secret in her life.
Yeah.
And then she comes out, and Alan Cumming like just, don't worry, times will change.
Oh.
You'll be able to love who you want to love.
I mean, I thought it was done the best it possibly could have been done.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But...
Like, it was on the nose. You're right, it was. It felt authentic to that character that Alan Cumming plays.
Yes, absolutely it did.
Like, it did feel like in this universe that they've set up, he probably would say that. But you're right, yeah, it is very, very on the nose.
Yeah, it didn't, like, that character was a very high camp gay man, but he didn't really feel like a caricature, except in that moment where he was just like the magical gay man who can take to the future. He's such a good actor though that he felt like a person. He didn't feel like this two-dimensional stereotype has come out to say something catty or something like that. What he was saying felt genuine, like, and it is all in the performance there. So that's what I mean. It was like, it was the best they possibly could have done that scene. And I think that it was important for them to mention, like, yeah, she's still in the closet, okay?
Yeah.
But it's not going to be like that way forever. This is not the end of her story where she just stays in the closet forever.
Yeah.
It was just, like you said, very on the nose.
And it was important to say that too, about how, because it's not like she wins, she comes out and grabs her hairdresser, and I don't think that happened.
No. She just like snuggled up on her husband and like made baddie eyes at her hairdresser.
Yes.
As was the style of the time.
Oh, 70s.
Previews.
Oh, let me get to...
you want to talk about your thing?
Yeah, I'll talk about Mountain Between Us first. Man, I wish you were there at that shit. Like,
before you start, can I say, from the preview, every time I saw it, I thought, when she falls through that ice, that bitch is just dead. Was that bitch dead when she fell through the ice?
No, you're gonna... Okay, that's... Boy, where it goes after that... Okay, so this movie... When I left I was mostly... okay, to say a few good things about it. If you don't know what The Mountain Between Us is, it's Idris Elba and Kate Winslet. She is getting married the next day. He has to get to wherever it is they're flying. He's got to get there because of a surgery because he's a neurosurgeon. And there's shitty weather, so they get in this small plane that's being flown by Beau Bridges and his dog. And the plane crashes and they have to survive in, I think, the Rockies. I'm not sure. They have to survive in this mountain range. To try to either stay there and wait for someone to save them, or to just walk and see if they stumble across anything.
Fantastic plan.
Either one, great plan. Like,
Just eat the dog immediately.
The dog lives.
What?
There were several points in this movie where I was like, that dog is lucky they're not eating him. Like, and after the movie I saw last night, I'm like, the dog is owed one. Like, the dog is... It would have made more sense for the dog to die in this movie than in The Stray.
They get back to town, and it's standing in the street, all of a sudden the dog just get hit by lightning and falls dead where he stands.
This movie has way more to do with that dog than The Stray had to do with The Stray. So, when the plane crashes, it's this really well done scene because it's all done in like one continuous take where the camera's kind of going around and around in the cabin, and they're having this conversation. She's asking him about his business and he's asking her about her. She's a photojournalist. So they're kind of getting to know each other a little. It's just small talk. It's just like small talk on an airplane. And Beau Bridges is like talking about how he was in Vietnam and a thing like that. And this is, it goes on for a little while, and it's impressively done because Beau Bridges has a stroke and then the plane goes down and you see the plane going through all this weather. Again, in what is at least edited to look like, maybe it is, but like at least it looks like it's done in one continuous take, from this conversation to him having a stroke to the plane going down. And it's impressively done. Like, it was pretty intense. And there's another scene later on that's well done where like a cougar comes into the remains of the plane and she shoots it with a flare gun.
Yeah.
The dog survives this too, by the way. They like sew the dog because the dog fights the cougar at one point and he just sews up the dog's shoulder. He's fine.
Good dog. And then you eat him.
But they eat the cougar.
Oh, okay.
They do. They eat the cougar. And then it's what you see in the trailer. Like, it's...
Like, her foot's jacked up.
Yeah.
He's just, like, dragging her.
And he's dragging her and stuff like that. And so and they have a lot of small talk with each other through the movie. Like, she wants to stay, or no, she wants to leave. He wants to stay in the plane. And when the part with the ice happens, it's maybe like an hour into the movie or something like that. And so they're both sitting on this log, and it turns out it's over this patch of ice. And then he's like, where's the dog? And she's like, I don't know, maybe you should go look for him. And he's like, okay. So he goes off to go look for the dog and ends up finding a cabin, like an abandoned cabin. And that's when he runs back to tell her that he's found this cabin. And then that's when the ice breaks. He quickly goes over there, reaches in, and just pulls her right out.
Ugh.
And he pulls her right out, takes her back to the cabin, and she's out for, I don't know, with this movie in time. Like, I mean, like, she's out for maybe like a day or so, and he has to like make this makeshift IV because she's dehydrated and everything. And then, so she comes to, and, they're talking everything, and then they bang.
I was about to ask.
Hard.
Hang on a second.
They bang so fucking hard.
Who's gonna bang the life back into her limbs? Like, she's probably got like, just like her blood flows real sluggish.
It is a full-on love scene in this movie. And there is such little sexual chemistry between them that when they were banging, they're trying to trick us as if there was. Because it's flashing back and showing them every now and then look at each other and stuff. And it's editing it to make it look like this is something that should have been obvious that this was gonna happen, but it's not. The only time I ever thought that, like, I think I know where this is going is when they're sitting in front of a fire, like maybe a half hour before this scene happened, and he doesn't have any gloves on, and she's like, well, here, put your gloves in mine, and he does, and he's like, like that, like, okay, I think I know where this is going, and I don't like it. Like, I don't like this at all. And then, like, it's the next day and it's all romantic. She's a photojournalist, so she's taking pictures of him sleeping.
The day
and
of
everything.
her wedding, you mean?
No, this is like 3 weeks later.
Oh, my bad.
She missed her wedding. And this is...
Well, then she's got no option.
This is why I was thinking about Bill Pullman. Does it make sense now? Remember Sleepless in Seattle? Because eventually they do survive. Like they do. And they find a logging... They stumble into Twin Peaks, essentially. They find like a logging community. And again, she goes, wait, where's the dog? And he's like, oh, I don't know. You want me to look for him, don't you? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, okay. He goes off to get the dog.
You're lucky I love you.
He steps in a bear trap. And I'm like, oh, fuck off. And then they're rescued and everything. And the husband, or the fiance, comes into it. And it's Dermot Mulroney. And I'm sitting there this whole time thinking, like, okay, maybe if they make him a dick or something like that. But they don't. They, like, Bill Pullman his ass. Like, he's fine. He's just a guy, you know? And he's Dermot Mulroney, and I like Dermot Mulroney. So, alright. And then the movie never ends. It never ends. I'm like, once it just keeps going. It keeps going and going and going. Like, Idris Elba is back being is back being a surgeon, or, well, he can't do that because his hands are fucked up, but he's back being a doctor, and she and Dermot Mulroney break up, like, off screen. Like, so...
Well, if he's a nice guy, you don't want to watch that shit.
Yeah, you don't want it to be... Right? Yeah, I'm like, I'm not rooting for this. Like, why is this a Nick Sparks meets... The Gray, like, so, then the two of them, because Idris Elba's, like, avoiding her phone calls, and she finally sends him the picture of, like, him sleeping, and the two meet back up together, and they're talking, they're having, like, a drink, and then they go out in the street, and just,
he steps in a bear trap.
Like, I wish to God, that would have been, like, worth it, worth this movie going on for an eternity. Oh my God. Like, so... she's basically saying, like, you know, what we had there, it was just there in that moment and whatnot. And then he goes, the reason we survived was because of our love. I'm like, no, stop with this. Like, the
reason you survived is because the script needed you to.
Yes, the reason why they banged was because the script needed them to. There's no sexual chemistry between these two or anything.
Was the dog, like, watching? Like, oh, that's
I can't
Colby.
remember. Right, just like through the... Sometimes the dog just disappears in this movie, honestly, and then comes back into it later. So then, like, they part ways, but then they stop and they run and embrace and then cut to ending credits. And I was mostly bored before, like, it tried forcing this love story in where there was no reason for there to be a love story in this. Like, before it forced that in, I was like, you know, maybe this is a rental or something, because it's got a few good scenes here and there, and overall the acting's good. Like, they're both, Idris Elba, Kate Winslet, they are both great actors. And then when it got to this... when it got to all trying to make this into a love story, I'm like, I'm not having this. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. And then it just got bored because it wouldn't, it just got boring, and I was bored and just sitting there like this, and it wouldn't end. And afterwards, I was like, oh, that's a forgettable fucking movie. And then we went to go see Battle of the Sexes, which was great. And now I'm like, I hate this fucking movie.
Because usually when a movie's like a guy and a girl, my first thought is, well, they're probably going to end up banging. But watching the previews for Mountain Between Us, that thought never entered my mind. I thought they're just going for, like, two very different people crash land in a mountain and they have to take care of each other in order to survive. Then you said that they found a bed in the middle of fucking nowhere. I'm like, hang on, wait a minute.
And then they banged.
And then they banged on it.
And they bang right after she finds out that he was once married and his wife died of cancer.
Oh, that's a bangable moment.
There is not one bangable moment in this. The only bangable moment in this is maybe between the dog and the cougar.
Puppy dog legs are rough.
It was... See, now you know why when I saw you earlier, I was like, I wish you were there with that.
I kind of wish I was now, too.
But the movie's...
I'm interested to know what I would have picked up in the movie, like, oh no, they're going to have sex now.
When it got to the part with the glove, I was like, please don't. I'm like,
why would you?
I have a feeling that is where this movie's gonna go, and then it does, and it's so random.
Was it at least a hot sex scene?
Yeah, actually, like, it was shot well. And it's shot like it's like an erotic thriller. And it's a PG-13, there's no nudity. Well, okay, hang on, there kind of is, because when she's taking her picture, she's wearing a white tank top, and there's all kinds of nipples going through there in this cabin in the middle of the fucking Rocky Mountains.
Put on a coat. I'm not even there. Put on a coat.
It was bad.
So don't watch it, but maybe watch the sex scene.
Yeah, sure. Like, I mean, it's not even.
So
it's like I told you.
Right.
Well, it's like no, you need the build up before it gets there. Like, so like, it's like I told you earlier, where it's not interesting to watch, but it was interesting to explain to somebody. Especially you, because we were both at fucking Me before you, so that's why I was like, it's not interesting to watch, but it was interesting to talk about.
Yeah, like, I would never rewatch Me Before You.
I would never rewatch this.
But I will describe it to every person I meet until the day I die.
Oh, yeah, totally. I will never rewatch this fucking movie. No way. Just stay home and watch The Gray. Jesus. They're like, the corpse of the pilot is lucky they didn't eat him. They can't. It's PG-13.
I was about to say, why wouldn't they? He's like right there and already dead.
It's PG-13 and it's a love story.
Well, she broke up with Dermot Mulroney off screen. Maybe they ate the pilot off scene.
Yeah, trailers.
We got Marshall.
I've gotten that trailer a few times before, so I went to the restroom. That movie looks
amazing.
Oh, it looks really good. I think that comes out this weekend.
And you know me, I love Josh Gad, even when he's in something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And this looks like genuinely good, like he's stretching his acting chops.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And see, when I wrote this down, Wonder. I wrote it, and I'm like, well, that doesn't look like a word. I'm going to get to the preview and have no idea what that says. Remind me what Wonder was?
The kid with the face.
Oh, the kid with the face.
It looks, like, it's probably really sweet and probably, like, really heartfelt and uplifting. There is part of me that wishes that halfway through it would turn into the Book of Henry.
You wanted the kid to die?
No, not that. Like, no, take out that. Just all of a sudden they have to solve
like a mystery?
A mystery, like a molestation case, like in fucking Book of Henry. And like, Julia Roberts gets a sniper rifle and goes after Mandy Patinkin or something, who's also in this.
I'm sure, I didn't see whether this movie is based on a true story.
It said based on a book.
I'm not a big fan. Sorry,
it said, you. Oh, no, it just said based on, like, a best-selling book.
I think this is one of those stories where it's basically all the conflict in it is operating under the assumption that every human being on the face of the planet has to be convinced to be decent to a little boy with a facial scarring. And it's like, I don't know a single person in my life who would be a monster to a little boy with facial scarring.
Except for
where are they getting these people?
Except for maybe like some bastards in his class or something like that.
But even so, man. I don't know.
I don't know who's made the movie. I don't know who the writers and directors are. It looked like it could probably be schmaltzy, but it looked like it might be sweet. I don't know.
It looks very sweet. I just, I don't like movies where everyone's just terrible to a little boy, and that's what I'm supposed to be fucking watching for an hour and a half. So I don't know what this says.
Downsize.
Yes!
The Matt Damon one.
Oh my god, it's little people.
Yeah, they shrink themselves.
So it's like, this is the first time I've seen this preview.
I got it once before.
And it's basically, there's this plan to like solve the overpopulation problem, is they made the technology to shrink people down to so wee. And then they've got like all the resources they need because they're so wee. And people are deciding, like rich people seem to be deciding that they want to be so wee so they can, money is worth more when you're so wee. There's like a scene where they've got like a Svedka vodka and they've like put a spigot into it and they're just pouring pitchers of vodka off for themselves.
Dream come true.
And man, like I would be so wee immediately.
Right. It looked really funny. It looked really quirky. It's an Alexander Payne movie, so it looks really quirky and original. It does. It looks like a really original movie. It looked funny.
Yeah, I'm really on board for that one. Pitch Perfect 3.
That was a new trailer for that, and it still looked terrible.
Yeah, the trailers for the first two were similarly atrocious, and I enjoyed the first two, so I'm still optimistic about this.
Man, what was one of the jokes in that trailer? Like, you're on a military base, girls. Oh,
this is the first base. Which one of you will I be getting to second base to? And the one's like, that's a no from me.
That's a no from me, Sarge.
Because she's fat. Bye.
Oh. God.
But there's a funny part where like her and Anna Kendrick are having a moment, and Anna Kendrick's like, "Don't you start crying?" She's like, "I'm not. This is the face that I made."
At least that was one. At least that was one joke in the trailer was where the punchline wasn't "'cause she's fat." And I haven't seen the other two movies, so I'm like, maybe it'll be fine if the other two trailers were as bad as this trailer.
See, that'll be interesting because I feel like I want to go to Pitch Perfect 3. I'm not sure who you would send to go with me.
You and Ryan were at the second one, and he's
because he'd seen the first one before the second one. I saw the second one and then went back and watched the first one.
Seems like the kind of movie that I would also ask Brian about, like when you guys were at Battle of the Year.
I forgot about Battle of the Year.
The Josh Holloway movie.
I can at least confidently say that this movie cannot possibly be as bad as Battle of the Year.
Oh come on! Imagine this if they were a ragtag team taught by Sawyer.
Look here, Freckles.
Oh, on board. Yes.
Take him to 7th base. I don't even know where that base is. Only the Brave.
Oh, the firefighter movie. It looks like the same movie as that other Miles Teller movie where he's a soldier.
Which, California's, on fire right now. So, I don't know if they're going to push this back, depending on how
I doubt it, because we're still getting Geostorm.
That's true. That's very true. The Shape of Water.
Oh, the Guillermo del Toro movie.
That movie looked gorgeous. Yeah. And a stone cold bummer. I don't know if I want to see that.
It's Guillermo del Toro, so it'll probably be me and Dave.
Oh, thank God.
I think
you can tell me how good it was.
We've been at all of his movies except for I think it was me and Brian at Crimson Peak. But that's getting crazy fucking good reviews. It looks interesting.
And it's it's a period piece, and it's the sort of period piece that I really like, where it's all kind of steampunky, and they're playing the BioShock soundtrack in the background.
Yes.
And there's this sweet little Amu looking mute girl who's fall in love with the sea monster, and it looks kind of like a gritty remake of Splash.
Crossed with Splice with Adrian Brody.
Yes, so Splice.
Splice. Yes. Now I really want to see it.
Yeah, then Goodbye Christopher Robin, which we've discussed already.
It looks better than... Dave and I got a trailer yesterday for a movie about Charles Dickens writing A Christmas Carol, and Scrooge keeps appearing before him to give him inspiration, just like his...
Oh no, you're insane.
I know, right? And it's Patrick Stewart playing Scrooge, and it's Dan Stevens playing Dickens. It looked like a TV movie. It looked like a Hallmark movie.
Sounds like an episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah, the name of the movie is The Man Who Invented Christmas.
What?
It's in the Bible.
It is in the Bible. I forgot about that part.
And I'm like, he's got the Christopher Robin trailer, and I'm like, this looks a lot better than that Christmas trailer I got yesterday.
The Christopher Robin movie looks really, really sweet, but the trailer seems to be focusing a lot on how much it sucks to be that little boy after the book gets published. And so maybe I just need to watch the first half of that movie and then just walk out for the second half.
And then watch the first half of that movie and the second half of Winnie the Pooh's Heffalump movie.
Yes! Call it Hello Forever, Christopher Robin.
Drastic tonal shift in this. Was that it?
That's it.
This weekend is Happy Death Day and The Foreigner. I don't know what else is coming out besides that. But those two I know of for sure. So
what is Happy Death Day? Because the only thing I've heard about that is there's a video that keeps popping up on my Facebook where it's like a cake tutorial, but at the end they like write Happy Death Day on it and then stab it with a knife.
It's Groundhog Day, but a slasher film.
Okay.
The girl wakes up, it's her birthday, she's like a snooty college student, and at the end of it she gets murdered by like a masked killer, so it's like a slasher movie, but she keeps repeating the day over again, so she's trying to figure out how to murder.
Well, it sounds hilarious. Is it meant to sound hilarious?
It looks like it'll probably have a sense of humor to it. I would look more forward to it if they were releasing it with an R, because then I'd be like, maybe the death scenes will get really cartoonish in this. Like, but they're putting it out with a PG-13, so I'm like, it's kind of lame. I don't know. It looks like it probably will have a little bit of humor to it as well.
This is probably a you and Brian movie.
He's busy, so I shot a text over to Irving. But those will be coming up on Thursday and Friday, either or. Say it. Thanks for watching.
Bye, guys.